What is up, everybody? It's your boy Verdict here, and thank you so much for stopping by, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I would like to thank you before we start this episode and just do a couple of notes for the upcoming things. Thank you so much for the interest in the last one. Proportionately speaking, that's a very intensive like ratio to view ratio. It seems like the people that check those videos absolutely love them, and thank you for the very positive comments down below. So I would like to also spend some time with you to address a couple of questions, and I have them over here pulled onto my phone. Now, last time we spoke about the creationism of Black Desert Online, and we just a very brief TLDR, although if you want to have a lot of info, then go ahead and check that. But a very brief TLDR, in BDO, creationism is not in the way where, Tolkien did creationism with the Silmarillion. It's not a Bible book. We don't have a book of who did what, and that's the book. In BDO, we have the different factions tell us how the world is being created. Some factions have a lot more truth to them. Other factions are completely fabricated, and you do get to pick based on what your allegiance is. Let's first and foremost answer a question from Cold Napalm 42 that asks, what about the elven lore of creation? The reason for which I didn't include the elven lore in Black Desert's video, like the origination point video, was because elves are not from our world, and we know this. Elves also have a very different way of expressing their beliefs. It's just simply that they're aliens to our world, and the way they work is very different. They don't have that particular creationism in their mind. They work different, but elves are worthy of episodes on top of episodes for them. Like, it's very complicated with them, and it's very well done. It's actually my favorite part of BDO lore. So the elves will have their separate episode. And we have another question from Raphael 3801 that asks, and it's a very cool question. You said that the alienism is a political creation, but the Valkyries have holy power. If Alien does not exist, how the Valkyries have power? And that's a very cool question, Raphael, because in the world of Black Desert, it is very well established that in order for you to have power, you do not need to worship gods. And in order for you to acquire power, you also do not need to really worship anything. See, the Valkyries, while they are pretty much the military of the Alionian Church, they're very zealous. Their lore is very, very tragic, and also their belief is so over the top to the point where, as I'm pretty much seeing an entire video on the Alien Church, the Valkyries, pretty much a Calpheon video, which is going to touch upon that culture. But one thing for sure is that in that video, I kind of also mentioned briefly, you know how there's other races? That was a little bit of something to give you an idea of where do these guys have their power, because, there's strong suggestions that they don't get their power from Elion, and in fact it's something else. But that is for another time. Now, before we get into this particular topic of the video, I would like to just say a couple of things for our dear members of this channel. I'm currently working on getting your experience as a member here rewarding. So I'm working currently on getting a couple of those badges updated. I'm looking to give you as many as emotes as I possibly can so you guys can express it down below. We might do some lore emotes, we might do some very fun stuff, so keep an eye open for this. And if you would like to join those memberships, you know what to do. Join button down below. But that aside, share, like if you like those videos, and let's get on with it, because we are on a tantrum for 4 minutes and we have at the very least probably 10 or 15 to talk about. So we have to start from somewhere, and this somewhere is the ancient times. Now, even though we do speak about alienism, we do speak about the religion of all of these different cultures expressing their beliefs in how the world was created, so on and so forth, the reality of our world is that those are very recent cultures, and we have had cultures from tens of thousands of years ago that don't really have similar beliefs. Rather, they don't express them as vividly because not that much of an agenda exists there. And we have to talk about a couple of things today. The number one is we'll be talking about the Black Stones, because that's the centerpiece of Black Desert Online. It truly is. We'll be talking about the arrival of Black Spirit. We'll be talking about the kingdom of Kabua, or is it even a kingdom? It's kind of a bunch of tribes people doing science, it pretty much is. And we will be talking about Edana, which is pretty much one of the most important bits of BDO history, which really gets to us because we ourselves are also on Edana. So that's a very cool part which I always like to talk about. I really do enjoy that old history because Now, a little bit of a disclaimer, we barely know anything about them. This is so long ago, the records are kind of conflicting, others are just so little to the point where we're kind of scraping for something. However, we have some very solid takes from this. So our world is very, very young on a cosmic level, but the civilizations which lived at its beginning, they are very, very impactful. So in the world of Black Desert at the very start, it's very important to say that, and I'm going to give a little bit of a throwback to the Calpheon and the Elionian beliefs, is that the world is created by black stones. That is very, very important according to their beliefs. It's their entire agenda. And speaking of the black stone, let me just give you a very quick explanation of what the black stone is in the lore. The best way to think about it is a battery. It is a very potent battery, a battery which holds a lot of power that you can use by literally eating it. Like, there are lore characters who have been consuming them, literally consuming them, eating the black stones for the sakes of acquiring power. We see this even most recently into the Jourdain saga with Alfonso Rundi, and one of the most important things is that it's essentially a drug. And the black stones is you consuming the power of your world. However, it comes with very heavy costs. Most of the times, if you do not go fully insane, then you will die because your body most likely is not capable of holding so much power. So there are different types of black stones in this world, as we know from simply playing the game. You have Refined, you have Flawless, you have Khafre's black stone, which is not that many people know of. But however, you know, all of those stones, they're essentially coming from the same thing. Pure black stones also the same thing. Different types of stones hold different amounts of power, and based on who consumes what, you get certain strengths to you. So now that we know what the black stone is, we need to kind of talk about the black spirit, because he is the primary consumptor of these particular black stones. He loves them. In fact, it's all that he wants to do. If he could simply eat the black stone essence or refine them into powder, you know, he would snort that shit. But what I'm trying to say here is that it's very, very important. Now, the black spirit of our world, the literal, what is it? If we're the protagonist, then he is our sidekick. But the reality is that he plays a much bigger role. So the very first time the black spirit is seen in our world, it is through the fallen meteorite which goes into the Alieli or the Demon Lands. This takes us a long time ago. It really happened quite some time ago. The black spirit's origin, like where does it come from aside of this meteorite falling, we do not know. We literally do not know. There is not even a mere suggestion on this. We all know is that he is an alien, or rather they are an alien, because black spirits are in innumerous amount and they're throughout the entirety of this world. The black meteorite which fell and basically gave us the black spirit is not the same as the black star. I've heard a couple of people talk about this and ask this as a question, so I'm just going to tell you those two are very separate things. They come from presumably very separate worlds, and yeah, just don't think too much about it. They're very, very separate. They have pretty much nothing in common outside of just one thing, which we will explore with the Elven episode coming soon. Like, subscribe. So with that said, ladies and gents, what is the black spirit? Well, the black spirit is literally a parasite, but not in the sense of killing the host and it dying. No. It's more like it's a parasite which wants to keep on growing in power and keep on growing in power and never stop. It wants to be the most powerful thing ever. And it's very important here to say is that the black spirit is in reality the essence of greed. It is the purest forms of greed. That's what it does. It is simply greed. So the black spirit wants you to do one thing. It wants you to find the black stones, and it is going to use any force on you or against others necessary to acquire them. There is a vast competition between black spirits themselves. They don't like each other because it seems to be a race to the finish. It seems to be whoever gets the most power wins, and we kind of see this throughout quest chains. We kind of see this throughout many logs, knowledges, etc., etc. Especially you get a little bit of a dialogue when you meet Edana's black spirit into the chambers, into the ancient stone chambers through the portal in the Valencia quest chain. So a little bit about Edana now, and we just can't not talk about Kabua. Kabua is the birthplace. It's like the cradle of the world, pretty much. Kabua is, as far as an old civilization really goes, and it is a very important piece for our lore because, well, Sage is Kabuan, Edana is Kabuan, and those are, if not the two most important characters in the world, then I don't know. Well, I mean, I can't even imagine, like, in the modern story, there are as important characters, but these guys literally pivoted everything for the world. It is insane how important they are. Now, Sage, yes, the playable character, his name is Rux Mahad Dekia, the creator of Dekia Lantern, Part 2 as well. Jay had nothing to do with that, I'm just saying. It was all Dekia. So with that, I'm going to run this joke at least once more by the end of the series, all right? So, at the end of that, we have to talk about something important. Now, once the Valencian people saw that the Black Spirit collapsed, the Black Meteorite, it collapsed, it crashed into the world, and it sent black stones throughout far and wide, as it is said in the knowledge, it's very important to say that everybody was going insane because of the Black Spirits, which were looking to get all that power for themselves. It's literally said in the Valencian knowledge that simply the impact drove people insane, let alone those who were capable of surviving that, to be able to continue and live with the Black Spirits, and pretty much the entirety of the world, or rather the remotely close regions, all were infested with the Black Spirits. It is something that we do know. Now, a very important thing to talk about is now Edana. Now, Edana was a very, very prominent Kabuan from the ancient kingdom. Or is it a tribe? We don't know. People call it in a different ways. I guess it's where the story of Edana starts as a tribe and where Kabua ends as a kingdom. It could be something like this. But let me express one thing. Kabua, the placement of that kingdom is kind of like, is it in Ulukita? Is it in Valencia? We kind of don't know. Was it that big? We just don't know. And we do believe that it's just an old Ulukita before the Hex Kingdom was there. At least for now we do believe, although in the Magnus we get a very weird cutscene with the warriors of old talking about Kabua still being up and running somewhere. It's very weird, and that's one of the things which I don't like about PA. Why would they keep on telling the story about Kabua and kind of mix the information? So this is one of the very few times where they've been purposely misleading us on something, and they're not retconning the past like they do with one very important story of the future. But let's not go on this tangent anymore. Let's talk about Kabua, let's talk about Sage, and let's talk about Edana. So once we had the Black Spirit in our world, we know very well that, well, that would be the end of us. Like, there is nothing that you can do. And here is where Sage plays a very important role, and that is to find a way to cleanse the infection of the Black Spirit and the Black Stone, either of which. So we know that to be true by the Valencian quest chain. We know that Edana was the first person of the Kabuan tribes or kingdoms or whatever it is that conquered the Black Spirit. Now, a little bit about Edana. Edana is a male and is known to have a Black Spirit which actually cooperated into finding what the purpose of the Black Stones of this world is, and finding how to really figure out the history of the Black Spirit, to create a correlation between, in order for us to beat the Black Spirit into not necessarily a submission, but rather instead of the Black Spirit doing everything it can to overtake our minds and our bodies and kill us, into at the very least be able to coexist with them. We see that it's a very important part of the lore, and Edana succeeded this. Now, however, this comes with a very interesting part, and this is a little bit of old lore which I'm not entirely sure if it's still relevant. However, consuming the powers of a Black Spirit, or rather a Black Stone with the Black Spirit, well, that keeps you forever young. And it basically makes you immortal. It's also why our character has never aged. It's not because there is no way to age them or something like that. No, it's just that within the lore, if you have a Black Spirit and you keep on doing the Black Spirit-y things that it wants you to do, and you're kind of playing along and you're also benefiting from one another, it's a mutual transaction. So the Black Spirit infested humans, they know to never age, especially if they're working together. However, there is a very cool thing to this. If you ever fall in battle, you will be reborn to live a second life, which is called an awakening. And this is kind of where the initial lore was supposed to take you, such as you go ahead and you finish the Medea quest chain and you actually defeat the Black Spirit, and then somewhere you fall and you learn to awaken yourself. That was at least what the initial process of that succession awakening thing was supposed to be. I'm not really sure if that's relevant for the story or it correlates directly right now to the awakening and succession, but it's a very important thing that if we ever die, we're capable of living again. This is the power of the Black Spirit. And now that we have everything set up ready, we can kind of explore a more important, more fun, one of my favorite bits of lore, but that will arrive shortly within the next episode. And I will give you a little bit of a teaser. Time travel. It has happened. It's happening right now, and it's very confusing, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to really well understand the entirety of BDO lore. Time travel is very well established. It's happening. Has happened. It will happen in the future, because it seems like we kind of come back to try and prevent something, and we've been doing it for a long period of time. Now, will this be the next episode? I do not know, but keep an eye out because it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, ladies and gents, we are at the end of the video. It's a 20-minute rant for lore, and as always, if you do like what you see, share it with buddies, like, subscribe, hit the join button down below, because I do like to put some stuff over here on the wall, very thematic, but they're expensive and I don't make that much from this channel. So let's get going on that. If you would like to give me $1, I'd gladly take it. See you guys, enjoy yourselves, and yeah, new episode in very few days. Bye bye.